truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the hatch. Who are the gold bars going to?
I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and we found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps.
Hey, do you remember this video from Project Veritas? It hit a few weeks ago during the transition when the outgoing EPA staff member here noted special advisor for implementation. He was caught on hidden camera in true Project Veritas fashion, talking about how they're trying to furiously spend as much money out of their budget as they can before the new Trump people take over, right? You remember what he likened it to? Here, watch.
Before they come in and like it truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the hatch. Who are the gold bars going to? Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away if Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning.
An insurance policy. Where have I heard that language before from an outgoing Democrat regime? Yeah, what he's talking about is giving money, gold bars being thrown off the Titanic, giving money to these outside organizations in huge chunks, millions at a time, and then empowering them to distribute that money as if they were the EPA, as if they were an agent of the federal government, to give money to non-government organizations, probably many of them that will be run by or populated by or manned by former members of the Biden administration EPA. This guy, for instance, Brent, could now get a job at one of these NGOs and basically have his fingers all over that same federal money that he had his fingers all over when he was at EPA. Now, because he wrote a blank check, basically, a big lump sum to one of these outside organizations as he's way out the door, and then that organization hires him and he's able to spend all that money. That's what it seemed like he was describing in this undercover video brought to you by Project Veritas. So what is this all about, and should somebody get to the bottom of it? The answer to the second question is yes, and somebody did get to the bottom of it. He's the new administrator of the EPA. He's Lee Zeldin. And last night, he took to social media to say exactly what that was all about, what those gold bars being flung off the Titanic really were. He found out, and this is going to blow your mind.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly 20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office, and will work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. The American public deserves a more transparent and accountable government than what transpired these past 4 years. We take our obligations under the law as seriously as it gets. I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and they found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps. As President Trump has vowed, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
What he's describing here is basically a money laundering scheme. The EPA knows that the Trump people are coming in. They're sitting on a bunch of money that is supposed to stretch out through the rest of this fiscal year. The fiscal year in the U.S. government goes from October 1st through September 30th. So we're just, a quarter and a half into this fiscal year. So the EPA, on their way out the door before January 20th, they send $20 billion in one fell swoop to a bank acting as an agent for the federal government, for the Treasury, and then empowers these NGOs then to distribute the money as if they're the EPA, right? To go to all the pet projects that the Democrats and the left-wing Green New Scheme people would want the money spent on. It's outrageous. It's absolutely unfathomable. Zeldin says this is a completely unprecedented, first time ever they know, at least at the EPA, that this sort of thing happens. It's almost like the EPA set up their own separate private USAID, right, with $20 billion. And I swear to you, you will get people commenting on this today, even if mainstream media wants to ignore it. Legacy media probably won't do much on it on cable news. But if they do, you'll hear commentators say, well, it's only $20 billion. I mean, what's 20 billion between friends? And I telling you, I hope there's major investigations into this. Zeldin did say at the end of the video, by the way, if you didn't hear it, that he has referred this not only to the Inspector General of the EPA, but also to Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. That would be for criminal investigation. I'm telling you, you look at those NGOs, you look at this Climate United Fund, you look at the organizations that were going to benefit from this boondoggle, from this shell game with your tax dollars, and you're going to find people who worked in the Biden administration who left their power in the administration and go right into these. There's a revolving door, baby, from working for the government to working for one of these NGOs. And it's all the same money. They think it's their money, and they can do with it whatever they decide. Well, this is great. And not only do we have Elon Musk now doing his great work with Doge and trying to get to the bottom of all of this, but now you've got cabinet secretaries and people in charge of their own departments looking at it, asking questions and wanting to know where this money is going. Well, that's it. You saw in the Project Veritas video, it's like throwing gold bars off the Titanic. It's sinking. We got to save the money. The only difference is they were throwing those gold bars into a lifeboat that they then jumped into and tried to paddle off into the sunset. And at least in this case, Lee Zeldin caught him. This is just the way he describes it, the way I hear it, it sure sounds like outright money laundering and corruption. And it's just scratching the surface.